In this session, we're going to take a look at all the new features in Microsoft Information Protection, and I'm going to take you through it step by step. So stay tuned, and I guarantee you will learn something here. Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. In this episode, I thought I would take a look at the newly updated Microsoft Information Protection. Now, Information Protection and in fact the new features are really not new features. They've just been deactivated. And to be honest, you had to go in and configure them with PowerShell. But the great thing is that now Microsoft have now fixed that problem, and now you're starting to see the full power of information protection and exactly what it can do. So in this video, what I thought I would do is take you through how you can assign policies manually, labeling and policies manually, and also how you can automate the process as well. Now, labeling and classification has been around a long time. So labeling essentially started out in the 1970s and came kind of from a military era. So in essence, we have some sensitive information. It means I can label that information as, secret, classified, confidential, whatever. But here in Microsoft 365, what we can do with that is you can then say, okay, if it contains this label, then I'm going to encrypt that data, or you can put a watermark on it. And the cool thing is you can also automate the process and integrate it with data loss prevention policies. Now, if you've not subscribed, I would love you to click on that subscribe button and ring that bell and come and join my great community here. And if you like the video, please go ahead, click on the like button. It really does make a difference to my channel. All right, so I think without any more jibber jabber, I think it's about time we jump in with the demos. So I'm kicking off my lesson here in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and I'm going to come down here into compliance. And of course, compliance is now Microsoft Purview. And here in Purview, I'm going to come down and I'm going to go into information protection. Now, information protection is a critical component in a company's defense in-depth strategy. It can protect your data, and it does this by using what we call labels and label policies. So in essence, you create a label and you set your conditions and restrictions on that label, and you assign the label to a label policy and assign that policy to a group of users or group of devices and so on. Now, you can create and apply labels either manually, or you can use an auto-labeling policy. An auto-labeling policy essentially integrates information protection with data loss prevention policies. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you the manual way to assign it, and then I'm going to come back and show you the auto-labeling. So make sure that you stick by me and watch the whole demo to get the whole complete understanding. All right, so first up then, I'm going to create a label. Now, with the label, I am going to call this is going to be my Oslo Sales, let's say Oslo Sales Confidential, okay? So, confidential, okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to call this my Oslo Sales Confidential. You can put in a little description for your users. Again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to use that label again. Alrighty. Now what you can also do is you can choose a color. So I can choose some funky color. So I'm going to use the red color. I'm going to click on next. Now, since I demoed this previously, there's been a few changes. The groups and sites is now available. Previously, you had to go in and there was some prerequisite PowerShell commands that you need to do. And it was very complex and users used to complain about that. So it's great to see that everything is in here now. So I can define the scope for this label. So do you want to define it for an item, such as an email message, a document, a Word document, a spreadsheet, something like that? Do you want to label sites? So this is not just Microsoft 365 groups, but you can label SharePoint sites. You can label Microsoft Teams as being confidential, and that means everything in the team is protected. Everything on the website is protected. Think of the benefits here. Currently in preview, we also have schematized data. So if you're using databases and the like, then you can also use this. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to accept all of these. I'm going to click on Next. So what do I want to do? Choose the protection mechanisms for this labeled item. Do I want to apply or remove encryption? Or do you want to apply some content marking so you can put labels on it, classifications and things like that? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to accept both. So what kind of encryptions do you want to set up? So do you want users to assign their own permissions, or do you want to assign permissions to the label now? Let's do that. You can also set a content expiry with this label. Again, that could be potentially useful. You might also decide, this is confidential information. I don't want users to be able to download copies. So the next thing then is assigning permissions to users and groups. So we'll go ahead and we'll assign them. And you've got some options here: add to all users, or unauthenticated users, specific users and groups, and email addresses or domains. So this is quite useful for, let's say, externals. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to choose all users and groups, and then I'm going to choose the permission. And what you get here is you get a set of SharePoint permissions. So you've got permission levels, and within each of those levels, you can see that you've got specific sets of permissions. So a viewer, for example, will have very limited access to files, whereas obviously a co-author, they've got slightly more settings. I'll go with this option and click on Save. So there we go. I'm going to click on Save. Right, and I'm going to click Next. Now, the next step, as well as the encryption, do you want to do some content marking? So I can add a watermark which puts it diagonally across the document. I'm sure you've seen this, in movie scripts and things like that. You can also put in a header or a footer. So for this demo, I'm going to put in a header. So here I'm going to just put in Oslo Sales Confidential. I can choose my font size. And again, I can choose the color as well. And you can choose where to align the text. Again, I'll just click Save, and I won't bother with a footer. I'm just going to click on Next. All right. Now, the auto-labeling for files and emails integrates data loss prevention policies. I'll come back to this at the end. So I'm going to click on Next. And this is new. So again, do you want to define protection settings for groups and sites? So again, privacy and external user access settings. Do you want to control external sharing with conditional access settings? Again, let's click on these and click Next. Now, this, of course, comes from your shared things like SharePoint access. So what level of access do you want to do this? So again, if you assign a label to a group, it will automatically make the group private, for example. Or the team and group members can make these options themselves. Let people outside, or let groups outside your organization add to the group. Now, so you may or may not want that. Okay. So again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to select that. All right. What about things like conditional access settings? Do I want to control external sharing from SharePoint sites? Again, this could be important to you. So, for example, who can you share with? Now, it's interesting, by the way, that it's not picked up. My tenant has blocked anyone. So that's the problem with anyone, is if you share it and guests get access, it's potentially possible that a guest could then reshare content. So I don't want to use that. So I'm going to just use new and existing guests. Okay. And I'll just click on next there. Now, at the moment, I'm not using schematized data, so I'm just going to click by that, and I'm going to go ahead and create my label. Now, when you create the label, the next thing is it will say, hey, do you want to publish the label? And you need to publish it to a policy. The problem with this, it's a little bit deceptive, because if I just click, yeah, I'll do that, you could end up with 50 individual labels in 50 individual policies. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to say don't create the policy yet. So here is my label. You can see I've now got Oslo Sales Confidential. So the next thing that I want to do is I've actually already got a couple of pre-created policies here. So I'm a gamer, so I've got Project Obsidian. So I'm going to come into Project Obsidian, the policy here, and I'm going to click on Edit this policy. And you can see that I've already got 2 classification labels. So, and the nice thing now is I can now go in, check it out, and I can go in and add a couple of additional labels. So you see what I mean? So if you had just clicked on publish with the label, you would have ended up with 50 labels in 50 policies. So you don't want to go there. So there we go. Now I'm going to click next. And of course, this is for all users and groups. Now, the only issue I have with this page is I feel that this page should be first. So do you want to apply a default setting? So do you want to choose a default label, right? And then it says, okay, users must provide justification to remove or lower a classification, okay? Require users to apply labels. So if you're in a sensitive organization, a financial institution, government, you may want your users to apply a label for everything. The only thing about this is before you switch this on, you definitely want to do some training with your users first. Require users to apply a label to Power BI, and again, a custom help page. You can create that up if you want to. Choose the default label. I won't bother here. And you can also choose a default email label as well if you want to. And you can also choose one for sites and groups. Again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm not going to bother. I've already named the policy. All I'm doing here is I'm just updating that policy. All right. So the labels are created. Super simple. How do we apply those labels? By the way, it can, just from experience, by the way, it can take about an hour for these to kind of push through the system. So if I now go in and do a demo and you don't see the label, it's because it's not been updated yet. So if I go into, here is my a Word document that I'm currently working on. So how do I apply the label? Well, whether you're using Microsoft Office Online or you're using the inbuilt apps, or you've got the downloaded apps here, essentially what we have up here is we have a sensitivity label. You've got the sensitivity option here, right? And this sensitivity option, I can then click on the drop down arrow. You can see here. So here you can see we've got the sensitivity option. If I click on the drop down arrow, you can see that I've got a number of labels. So I could go ahead and assign this. You'll notice my Oslo Sales Confidential hasn't come through. It does, it just takes a little bit of time. But for now, I'm going to click on Oslo Confidential. All right. So that is how you can assign a label. Now, what else is new? Well, if I just close that down and I come back into Microsoft 365, okay, so here I am in Active Teams and Groups. And if I scroll down, you can see I have got a number of Microsoft 365 groups which I have updated with Teams. And you can see here I have got a number of groups. Here's one called, let's say, Oslo Sales Team. So I can now click into the Oslo Sales Team, and at the moment you'll notice that this is just a Microsoft 365 group. Now I'm going to add a team to this, so I'm going to upgrade the group to become a Microsoft team, and this extends the capabilities of the team to have chat, meetings, and also you can now include third-party apps as well. Now in here you can see that I have a number of settings, and because this is now a team, you've got different levels of owners. So an owner is who owns the team. I can then add some members in if I want to. I can add some visitors, and I can then, these take me through to docs.microsoft.com, and I can learn about that. I can also add in additional channels. Now, within a team, a channel is essentially a subsite within a team. So I can go ahead, I can create an additional channel in here. But the really interesting tab is here. This is settings, and it says let people outside the organization email the team and send copies of emails to team members. It can be a private or a public team. And check it out, I can also configure the external file sharing, so I can choose that. And look, now we now have a new sensitivity label, and there is my Oslo Confidential. So I can click onto that, and I've now assigned a sensitivity label. So basically any content stored within the Oslo sales team, any emails, I know it's going to be encrypted. That, ladies and gentlemen, is such a cool feature. And likewise, any SharePoint sites, if I go into Microsoft Teams, you'll also see the sensitivity label there as well. So I now know that that is now protected. Okay. Now, the final thing that I just want to show you is going back into information protection. What about this thing called AutoLabeling? So AutoLabeling, essentially, you can create a data loss prevention policy. So a data loss prevention policy essentially prevents data from leaking outside our company. So I can come in and I can essentially create a policy from a template. And these can be based on both financial, medical, privacy, and so on. So, for example, if I click on financial and I'll say US financial data, this includes credit card numbers, bank account numbers, routing numbers, and so on. So I could click on next, and I could click on that, and I now want to create a policy. So this basically prevents that data from leaking outside of my organization. And it's such a nice feature, all right? Now, I've actually created one of these already, so I don't need to create that again. But let me just show you where it's really interesting. So as I said, it's a standalone tool. And if you've not, I've done videos on that before. And if you've not seen them, then definitely go ahead and check them out. But here in information protection, the screen's just rendering, by the way. If I click into auto-labeling, I'm going to create an auto-labeling policy. All right. Now, look, it says choose the information that you want to apply this label to. Okay, look again. So you can see it's the same templates. Yes. So again, I could say financial, and I'm going to say US financial data. The difference this time is it's not just a policy, but now it can, when the policy hits, and if it detects that you've got credit card information within a document or within an email, it will now automatically apply that label and the rules that I've set for that label, for example, encryption or content marking. Okay, So it says, okay, where is it going to be? So I'm going to choose all, or you can choose specific groups, specific sites, and so on. I'll just accept all here. All right. Do you want to use just the common rules? The advanced rules allows me to add additional information. For the purpose of this demo, I'll just keep it simple. All right. Again, financial data. I'm happy with that. Now, look at this. Now it says, okay, which label do you want to add? So for this label, I'm going to say highly confidential, all right? And I'm going to say recipients only, okay? So click on next, and you can now see that if it detects credit card information in any document, in any email, it will now automatically apply that label. All right. Now, and also if the document has an additional label already on it, it will replace it. Okay. So again, that's an option. You don't need to choose that, but again, it's an option there. Okay. Do you want to run the policy in a simulation first of all, or do you want to leave it off, or do you want to switch the policy on? Again, it's good practice to run it in simulation mode just to check it first. So I'm going to go ahead, and it does this for 7 days, by the way, and then you can go in and there's like a little log and you can check it out. So there you have it. I've created an information protection label. I've published the label to a policy, and I've gone ahead and created an auto labeling policy in Microsoft Purview. So there you have it, Microsoft Information Protection. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something new today. So if you did, then please bump the like button. I really do appreciate it. And if you've not subscribed, hey, come on board. Hit that button up there and join our great community here. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks so much. Comments, questions, get them down below. And as ever, I'll do my best for you. All right, I'm Andy Malone. Have a great day. Thanks. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.